Snaking its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia, this beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Welcome to Virginia International Raceway for the first race of the 2022 National Championship Runoffs. And we have got a damp track, and it's going to get damper as the day wears on. Hi, everybody. My name's John Phippen. I'll be handling the play-by-play chores along with my good friend Greg Kramer throughout the course of the weekend. But seated alongside me, our color commentator, Larry Lefty McLeod, now a four-time solo nationals champion, 4 in a row, I might add. And more notably, Larry is the winner of the 2022 SCCA Solo Driver of Eminence. Welcome, Your Eminence.
Thank you. Good morning to you, John. Not sure I'll ever get used to hearing that.
Yeah,
but you are the first today.
All joking aside, that is quite an honor, my friend, and we're very proud of you and happy for you for having won that.
Thank you.
As, like I say, our first race of the weekend for Formula 500, and we can hear whistles on the pit lane. Sounds like these cars are about ready to head out behind the safety car. The third member of our broadcast team, Hayward Wagner, is wandering down on the pit lane. SCCA Senior Director of Rally Solo and Experiential Programs. We'll be hearing from Hayward throughout the course of the race as he's got any information from down on the pit lane. And of course, he'll be interviewing our winners at the end of the races as well. This racetrack, if you're not familiar with it, is the second time it has hosted the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. 2019 was the first time the runoffs were held here at this beautiful racetrack. We're right on the North Carolina border as you have to go through North Carolina to get to the entrance of the track. So let's head it down to Hayward Wagner. Hayward, are you staying dry in this early stage?
Absolutely not. It's definitely a drizzle down here. As everybody expected, the big conversation this morning was tires. The one thing these guys could count on was a wet race, but it's not as wet as they thought it was going to be. There's only one compound available to these guys. There's no intermediate compound, but we're going to take a look at the tires real quick because there are some choices. This car right here is running a much wider tread block than everybody else. These are about 1 inch by 1 inch squares. Hoosier says those are perfect for these conditions where it's damp but not super wet. Calvin Stewart has hand grooved his wets to have even more tread blocks, to be able to evacuate even more water. But the one we can't figure out is Sven, who's running the full wets backwards on the rims. Hoosier says this should evacuate the water exactly the same as running them forwards. He has the choice to run them either way. He's running them backwards. Your pole sitter, he's got one of each.
Interesting. We were talking in our pre-race warm-up, Lefty, that they might run an intermediate compound, but Hayward has told us there is no intermediate compound.
Yeah, and that intermediate is the Eric McRee, the 46 car, where they're basically just a hand-grooved or a different tire there, the wide tread block type. And I'm told the reason is he can't fit with the bodywork the full rain wet tires. That's all he can fit on the car. So he may be kind of stuck with it. Maybe it turns out to be the right choice given the conditions as they roll off now.
Let's introduce the starting grid to you as we've got 11 drivers in this field for the first race of the 2022 runoffs. Starting alone in row number 6 is the number 86 of Timothy Freist out of Leavenworth, Kansas in the Kansas City region. He's in a KBS Mark 7 Rotax powered machine. In row 5 on the outside. Car number 9 is F. Russell Straight out of Alden, New York in the Western New York region in a Red Devil with the Suzuki power plant. The veteran campaigner in the field starts inside of row 5. Car number 67 is Jack Walbrand out of St. Louis, Missouri and the St. Louis region. He has competed in 29 runoffs. This will be his 30th runoff appearance. Sponsored by Mitchell Racing Services, and he's in a Scorpion Suzuki. In row number 4 on the outside, car number 38, Stephen Jondahl out of Rushford, Minnesota in the Land O'Lakes region. He's in a Red Devil JS14 Rotax. Next to him is the number 8 of George Bugg out of Tony, Alabama in the Tennessee Valley region in a Novacar J10 Suzuki. In row number 3 on the outside, car 78 is Jason Martin out of River Grove, Illinois and the Chicago region in a Novacar J9 Suzuki. Next to Jason is the number 55 of Keith Jocelyn out of Grand Island, New York in the Western New York region in a Scorpion Rotax. Now we move into the front 2 rows, and this is where the contenders are, we think. Sports Car has picked this man to finish second in this race, the number 46 of Eric McRee out of Lapeer, Michigan in the Detroit region in a Nova Race Blade Suzuki. The man who is the defending champion will start alongside him. We've already talked about Sven de Vries, picked by Sports Car to finish on the box here this weekend out of Holt, Michigan, and the Saginaw Valley region in a Nova Car J9 Suzuki. The front row, 2 former champions. On the outside, Calvin Stewart, picked by Sports Car to win this one out of Novi, Michigan in the Detroit region. We talked about Calvin. He's a winner of a couple of the Cup honors, the President's Cup and the Kimberly Cup in his championship year of 2015 down at Daytona. He's in a Nova Car Suzuki. And your pole sitter, the number 22 of James Weida out of West Lafayette, Indiana in the Indianapolis region, the 2013 champion of the class, and he's in a Scorpion S1 Rotax. This is his second pole in his runoffs career. As the field making its way behind the Honda Miata pace car, the Mazda Miata pace car. Sorry Mazda. Thank you for sponsoring our broadcast. I promise I won't do that again. As the field weaving back and forth, trying to get a little temperature into these rain tires.
Something to think about and to watch for on this start. I talked to Sven. Sven's going to be an aggressive starter, so we'll be looking for him to maybe try to make a move early.
As they are picking their way up the hill toward the climbing S's, and you can already see the spray off the back of that course vehicle as it's getting into position. And as let's have a look at the racetrack. If you're unfamiliar with this one, take us around, Lefty.
Sure. The dive down into 1, so a very downhill braking zone, and in the wet, trying to find some grip there is going to be very important. Then you get to some of the twistier bits of the track. Come back and around NASCAR Bend 3. That very tight, very treacherous turn 4, especially in the wet, it's going to be very slippery there. And then you can finally enter the snake turns 5 and 6. Down that little short straight under the bridge into the uphill S's very fast. Even in the wet, that's going to be extremely fast. Kind of blind crest around there, and then around the infamous South Bend turn 10, which I can't imagine trying that today in these conditions. It'll be fun to watch. That takes you down the hill, back up the hill into the famous Oak Tree Bend, where now Son of Oak Tree sits just off the outside of the track there. Down the long back straight. Lots of passing there as they come to the top of that roller coaster, turn 13 and 14. They'll come riding down that roller coaster. Lots of camber changes in the pavement, all downhill through 16, and then finally through the famous Hog Pen 17 and down again, another long straight, that front straight.
That's what the 3.27-mile circuit looks like. All of our races this weekend will be 15 laps or 40 minutes. And with the wet conditions, I think the 40-minute time limit is most likely going to be the limiting factor. As you can see, the cars kicking up some spray already as they make their way toward the roller coaster, passing the south pits.
So we talked about Sven de Vries maybe being the aggressor on the start. He's on that inside right behind Weida on the front row. Weida is traditionally a conservative starter. Now, if he's recognized that, he may be looking to defend. Cal Stewart is another one who is a harsh defender of position at every moment. So Sven's going to have a tough ride to get around those two, but he will definitely be given it a shot. He'd love to put them in his mirrors before we even see turn 2.
Exactly, as Eric McRee forms up alongside Sven de Vries as we are getting ready to see the green flag fly for our first 15-lap or 40-minute race of this runoffs. That cone there is the acceleration zone, but the drivers need to wait until they see the green flag before dropping their right foot and getting this race underway. And there it is as the field begins to accelerate. Cal Stewart with maybe a nose ahead, but he's side by side with our pole sitter, James Weida. And here comes Eric McRee. He is looking aggressive, making it 3 wide into turn 1 for the first time.
That's de Vries, your defending champ. He was able to take the win on some timely yellows last year. He knows how important it is to be leading. He said he was going to be the aggressor. He goes right up through it. And there's McRee in the orange getting around Cal Stewart. He's got those those wide block tires that Hayward was saying may be an advantage in these conditions.
Yeah, the other thing we'll have to watch for, this will be the first time these drivers have run this week in the wet. So they're going to experiment a little bit and find the rain line. The rain line is not necessarily the same line that they run in dry track conditions. You'll see these drivers finding areas of the track that don't have rubber that will have a little more grip, so they might be riding the rim around the outside of some of these turns. And you can see everybody's taking a little different line through the snake as they're trying to figure out where the grip is.
Yeah, outside of 5 is definitely the better place to go, but once you get in through the actual snake S's, it's just going to be a straight line as best you can. Uphill S's, kind of the same thing, not much room for a variety of line there, as they're definitely still feeling things out. You can see McRee here looking very tentative coming up the hill with Cal Stewart on his tail, but out in front, it's De Vries. De Vries is, he had said he hasn't driven in the rain in about 8 years. But he is a sim racer. He's driven other things. I think his adaptability is definitely showing its true form right now.
We're watching this battle for third spot. McRee in the orange machine, and Calvin Stewart, who started on the front row and dropped back early, but disappearing in the distance is Sven de Vries, as he is well out in front as they pass the south pits, and he begins to climb on this long back straightaway toward the roller coaster, as they will experience that for the first time. The track, as you can see, sort of crests just past the south pits, and then a little bit of a dip as they come into an area where there's 130 feet of a vertical drop here as you turn right down into that turn. And then it's kind of hang-on time as you work your way through turns 15 and 16. And now he's entering the hog pin turn, as Sven de Vries with a comfortable lead here in the early going. Just as you said, he was going to be aggressive at the start, and he's made the right choice, it looks like.
Yeah, he found that inside line, that going into 1, a lot of grip down that inside, and now he just looks very comfortable out there. Weida, as I mentioned, has always been a slow starter, so I would not count him out by any means. He's just more of a cautious, conservative, feel the thing out, know this is going to be a long race, also knows the potential for first full course yellows here at VIR is very high, so he's not really too worried, I'm sure, but he's just feeling it out, wants to make sure that in order to win this race, you finish this race first.
And Cal Stewart has retaken third spot from Eric McRee, as he apparently was able to get a little more speed down the back straightaway and take over that position, as we watch James Weida working his way through the left hook and then into, that's NASCAR actually that they're in right now. Cal Stewart drawing away just a bit from Eric McRee.
His car looks very twitchy though, Stewart, just as he taps the brakes turning in there. He's trying to find some grippy lines, and there isn't much of grip at all, certainly not down here at the 4, but his car still looks very twitchy, which is a characteristic of these kind of cars, these stick axle type cars. And really the best way to drive these, I find, is kind of a point and shoot. Get these things turned, get that power down, because the back is essentially a locked diff, and you can get power down as long as you're pointing straight.
Yeah, through the snake they come, and under the bridge as they make the climb up the hill, and you can hear those Suzuki engines screaming as they get up on the cam. So they're working their way into the climbing S's. Every driver I've talked to, if you ask for what's your favorite part of this racetrack, they all say, oh, it's the climbing S's for sure. It really gets your blood boiling coming up through there, especially in the dry. In the wet, it's probably a little dicey. As we look at Calvin Stewart, currently running in third spot. You can see the flames coming out of that exhaust.
And you can see the twitchiness, and you can even see the water coming off of the side pods there. It's really starting to pull up. It's coming down a lot heavier than it even was about 45 minutes ago. So for these drivers, as you said, their first chance to see rain here. I did talk to Sven de Vries. He watched the video of the Formula F race from 2019, which was a very wet race, to try and get an idea of where the lines are. And I think right now that little bit of research may be paying off. So these archived videos here of the runoffs may come in handy for drivers in the future. This may be the one they decide to watch.
Yeah, exactly right. And Cal Stewart apparently has got that car really working in the straight line. It's handling great on the straightaways, as he has been able to open up a little bit of a gap every time he gets onto that back straightaway, as Eric McRee, picked by Sports Car to finish second in this race, falling back into fourth at the moment, as de Vries and Weida showing the way out in front. But de Vries again with almost a 6-second lead after just 2 laps. Definitely the class of this field, but it's a long race, 15 laps or 40 minutes. Things could go away, and these rain tires, of course, are very soft, very sticky, with an effort to generate the most grip in these less than ideal conditions. But if you're too abusive, they begin to go away. They can chunk and definitely create problems for these drivers, so they have to be mindful of that. The wetter it is, the less they have to worry about it. But as you can see, Eric McRee sort of picking his way through the horseshoe, turn number 1, As again, that car very squirrely.
A lot of drift as he's coming off of there, trying to get that power down. These motorcycle engines are very, very strong. That's a 38 of Stephen Jondal.
Left his braking a little bit too late into the first turn, and that's going to cost him a position, as it looks like Jondal was passed by Keith Jocelyn in the 55 car. And yeah, there's Jocelyn out in front, so Jondal losing a spot as he came across the line in 5th. That demotes him back into 6th spot. But it looks he's going to try to recover from that. There's the 86 car.
Oh, and he
Timothy
just goes
Fries,
around.
as he has just looped it. And he's able to get it pointed back the right direction.
Not the tightest turning radius on these.
Exactly right. Yeah, the U-turn at the end of the pit lane has been a problem for these Formula 500 cars because they don't have a whole lot of steering lock. As we can see him coming down the hill.
Catches a little bit of paint, a little bit of that curb, and I can tell you in these conditions for sure, staying off the curbs is very important. He was not able to stay off, was able to recover, and then looks like he took another spin somewhere else because that was the replay of an earlier spin, not the same one we saw later. So he's having a bit of a trouble keeping it straight. But there's our leader, De Vries, coming to get down that roller coaster again, just looking smooth and comfortable. You watch the language of this car. It's not crazy twitchy. He just looks like he's in control. Very smooth.
De Vries in the Nova car, very similar bodywork to Calvin Stewart. It's a slightly different generation. De Vries is a J9, Stewart's slightly newer, the J10. But
Stewart's is very slippery. That car is in a straight line, an absolute rocket ship. That was the worry for De Vries in a dry race, if he was going to be able to keep up, as it looks like Vries again off track. Down there at NASCAR, it looks like heading now down to 4, but he's recovered. But yeah, for De Vries, his worry was that the trap speeds, especially the dry, were going to hurt him a little bit compared to Weida and to Cal Stewart. In the rain, he's feeling a lot more confident. You can just watch him now. Look at trying to use as much in the middle of the track where maybe there isn't as much of the oil, and he is even braking here into 4, trying to find whatever grip he can. And that's really the trick around this place, is just keep looking for the less shiny pavements, looking for the grippy spots, corner by corner.
And the leaders already working their way through some slower traffic. There's the 55 car already a lap down. Keith Jocelyn, who we saw with an off course earlier on, and right behind him is the 38 of Stephen Jondal, who had the spin. He's trying to get that spot back. Yeah, that's the battle for 5th and 6th as they head down into the horseshoe.
Yep, Jondal driving one of those older Red Devil chassis with the 2-stroke in there, where the 55, of course, is one of our motorcycle engine cars, and Jocelyn in that
Scorpion.
The Scorpion.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a pretty good battle here for 5th spot.
Actually, he might be also in it. These might both be the 2-stroke engines out there.
Yeah, both Jocelyn shown in the Rotax in the 55, and Jondal as well with the Rotax power plant. And they are nose to tail.
And it's definitely a good little battle. And the only issue here when you're the trailing car in a battle like that is that those rooster tail sprays come up, and they don't just get your windshield, they get you right in the visor, which is a problem on a day like this when it's humid and it's cold. As a driver, you like to have your visor cracked open a little bit to try and keep it from fogging up. The problem is that spray of water, if it's not your own tires, it's the car in front of you laying that spray, that water tends to go right up that visor. So that for Jocelyn right now, or for Jondal, excuse me, for Jondal is the trailing car. Giving a little bit of room here and there is probably not a bad thing, but he does want to try and get by if he thinks he is quicker than the 55 of Jocelyn.
Yeah, he dropped back just a little bit as they came through the snake and up the climbing S's again, probably because of that visibility issue. Well, we'll see now if he's able to close down. As you can see, the clear visors, you get a good shot of the driver's eyes as he gets a little better run through Oak Tree, so he's got an opportunity here to perhaps get a little draft and see if he can make up some ground down in the dip right there at the south paddock off to camera left, and then climbing the hill.
He's got to run.
Yeah, he does indeed. And he's going to pull out to the inside, a waving yellow flag at the top of the hill. So I don't know whether that pass will stand, but he is already drafted by as they come up toward the roller coaster at turn 14.
Didn't see the cause of that waving yellow.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. I don't know if there's somebody off further down the road, but nonetheless. And Eric McRee has retaken Calvin Stewart according to timing and scoring. As there's the 46 of McRee all by himself in the horseshoe. Calvin had that position. Calvin must be the car that is off. Yeah, that they were waving the flag for, because he has not come by. So Keith Jocelyn and Stephen Jondahl now battling for 4th position.
And Calvin has had a rough week, to say the least. Over the weekend during the testing, had electrical gremlins, engine wasn't running right. Got it all back together, goes out on the first day, Tuesday at qualifying, and towards the end of the session spins and taps into a tire barrier, actually right there in that turn 5 complex. Had to repair some body work, goes back out on Wednesday, and ends up with a bit of an electrical thermal event on the car. Not too bad. It was able to get it all cleaned up and get the car going again, but out here it sounds like he may also be having some issues somewhere out there.
He was able to get rolling again. He crossed the line 15 seconds behind Eric McRee. So Calvin Stewart with an off, as McRee working his way up the climbing S's into the South Bend, turn number 10. And then a short acceleration up to the Oak Tree Bend. So named because the inside of that turn, it was a glorious big old oak tree right there that unfortunately was struck by lightning some years ago and had to be removed. But that's where the name Oak Tree came from.
There are pieces of it still around.
Indeed they are.
Including that son of Oak Tree that's just off the outside there at 12.
Yeah. There's a green flag now at the top of the hill as everybody is back on the racetrack. As this is our 3rd place runner, Eric McRee, in the number 46, looking for a podium finish. McRee's best finish, it was a 3rd here in 2019 at VIR. So looking to repeat that, but a lot of racing left to go. We're not even halfway home yet.
He shared the sentiment I've heard from a lot of drivers in paddock this week, that this is one of his, if not his favorite absolute track. Just loves this place, loves the undulations and the speed and the variety you get around here. So he's definitely enjoying the week, currently in that 3rd spot. There's Weida running in 2nd, trying to maybe still get to grips, so to speak. But look at that diffuser bouncing back there. Looks like he may have, yeah, you can hear it hitting the ground. It kind of sounds like a Formula 1 car with the with the ground hitting there, but that is not good. That is not helping at all in his grip or his speed, and I'm sure as a driver it's got to be distracting. So you can see the struts that are holding the back of it on, but I think the front has disconnected itself from the frame.
Exactly right, yeah, and that's that diffuser is there to accelerate the air under the car and generate a little more downforce.
My worry now is that he may be leaving shards of that plastic behind him. I think I even saw one piece coming off there as he just before going under the bridge. So that would be my worry for everyone else, is that there may be some little pieces of plastic out there. That may even be carbon.
And of course, the race director has the option to show him the meatball flag, which indicates basically that he needs to come into the pit lane to have that looked at, because if it's deemed to be a hazard to other drivers, he will unfortunately have to do that. But you can see that diffuser is definitely dragging at the front, bouncing up and down as it makes its way down the straightaway.
And even the rear bodywork, the part that goes up and over the engine cover and back, that also looks like it may be a little bit loose. So there just may have been an entire bracket that snapped or something on him this morning.
Stephen Jondahl in the older chassis as hangs on to that 5th position as he's drawn away from Keith Jocelyn, who has dropped back about 7 seconds or so. They swapped that position on lap number 5, but Jondahl getting back around him into that 5th spot and is drawing away.
Jondahl trying to sell me a couple of cars last night when I was talking to him. He said he's got a couple of F500s. He's got a Formula F sitting at home, so he's working on. He knows, he knew his customer. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. And yeah, always at the end of the season, you can see drivers beginning to think about reducing their inventory of race cars, as this is the final race of the season. But Stephen Jondahl making his way into 5th spot. So Sven de Vries is your leader, but we'll take just a break to thank some of the folks making it possible for this broadcast here at the 2022 SCCA Runoffs.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
Have these initiatives moved the needle, like, at all?
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Hagerty. Let's drive together.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
We're back with the first race of the 2022 SCCA National Championship Runoffs as we watch the number 27 of our leader. That is Sven de Vries, who took the lead into the first turn, basically, and has not looked back. Sven de Vries, the defending champion, winning it at Indianapolis a year ago, looking to make it 2 in a row here. And he is imperious out in front. 25 seconds is his lead. And we are working race lap number 7. So not even halfway through this race. And de Vries is checking out at the front.
A sign of how comfortable he is. He's essentially turning the same sector times on every single lap as he goes through. There is no backing off for him right now. Little twitch there under braking going into 1, no big deal though. But when you start seeing that the driver's just matching sector after sector after sector as the rain continues to come down, which means the conditions may even be getting worse, yet he's not getting slower. That's a sign of a very comfortable and happy driver.
Sven de Vries looking very comfortable coming through NASCAR as he heads toward the left hook at turn number 4. And into the wavy parts, basically.
So treacherous. You can see him. It looked like he just parks it at 4, but talking to one of our colleagues, Tom O'Gorman, said that maybe the only line through there is to essentially just park it, as he may have experience in doing the wrong line through that corner. So speaking from that, passing that wisdom along, going slow and steady through 4 is definitely a good move.
This lower S's, if you will, called the snake, and then up into the climbing S's, which is just a blast as they work their way through. And you can see that car drifting through the climbing S's, then up into the South Bend. As we look at the 67 of Jack Walbrand, the veteran campaigner, as we mentioned, in his 30th runoff appearance. One of just a handful of drivers to have competed at 9 of the 10 venues that the Runoffs has been in since its inception. Jack, you had a chance to chat with him prior to this weekend, and he is a self-confessed veteran of this race.
Yeah, that was how he described himself, as the veteran of this field, but just loves these cars, loves passing along that enthusiasm of these cars to everyone else around him. And so it's great to see him back out there, as you say, running his 30th runoffs, and a lot of them in these cars since they came out many, many years ago.
He's picked up a position after losing that 8th spot in the early going, has gotten back around George Bug and moved himself up into 8th position. So Jack Walbrand working his way forward in that Scorpion S1 with the Suzuki power plant. He makes his way down the long back straightaway.
Yesterday he was talking to Corey McLeod, who's not registered this year, but he was down in paddock yesterday hanging out with some of his other F5 compatriots. I had a chance to talk with the other McLeod. Got the chance to tell him how his name is spelled wrong.
Exactly right. But
Good bunch of guys in this class, though. Very, very friendly, very tight-knit family group here in the F5 family.
We find that in the Formula car racing pretty much in general. Formula V is another example where it's really a family, and these drivers look after one another. As we head back to Calvin Stewart, currently running in the 4th spot. Cal is a bit further back than I think any of us expected. He is almost a minute behind Sven de Vries in a very similar car. So Calvin, just really not enjoying these conditions apparently.
No, probably not. He is back a little bit onto his pace, though. I'm just kind of watching the gap between Weida, McRee, and Stewart. They're all pretty close, but it looks like certainly through Sector 1, Cal Stewart may be the quickest of them. McRee also running pretty good there. Weida may be a little bit too tentative through some of those twisty things, turn 1, 2, all the way around through NASCAR. So we'll keep our eye on that gap to see if McRee maybe can start to reel in James up there in front of him. As soon as he can start to see him, it becomes a carrot for him.
Exactly right. As we look at the last lap, he was about a second quicker. And he's still got time to make up some ground. As like we say, we're at the halfway point time-wise, just passing 20 minutes of the 40-minute time limit. And as we said in the run-up to this race, with the wet track conditions, most likely these races are all going to be based on time rather than laps. The scheduled distance, 15 laps, probably won't get there, as the pace definitely slowed. These cars qualified in the dry under 2 minutes. 1:57.6 was the pole time. And Sven de Vries, who has set the fastest lap of the race on his last lap at a 2:21. So about almost 30 seconds slow.
Well, let's compare that to the rest of the field to show you this pace that Sven's running at. Weida's last lap, 31.8. McRee's 32.1. Cal Stewart's 31.5. Sven's 2:21.9, fastest lap of the race, continuing to push and push and push, just not backing off. His pace now is, I mean, if it continues at this rate, I don't think we'll have a problem finishing under number of laps relative to time, because he's actually turning faster than, let's say, a B-Spec would be in the dry. That just shows you the pace he's able to maintain, as the 38 of Jandal, again, off, looks like at the exit of 1.
Yeah, exactly. And back again onto the racetrack, but he had a pretty comfortable lead.
So he comes down into 1 in a good line. That's where you want to be, kind of inside, a little bit more to the right, but I don't think he broke early enough. The car just plows. You can see the front end lock and just push him straight off the outside of that corner.
He was about 27 seconds in front of Keith Jocelyn at that time, and it looks like he's been able to hang on. Yeah, there's Jocelyn right behind him. So, and he's waving him around. So, John Dahl.
That's not Jocelyn.
Oh,
that's
our
leader
the leader.
lapping him.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. So now the leader has moved up past the 6th place runner, and is now passing the 5th place runner. So only 4 cars remain on the lead lap, and they're the 4 that started at the front of this field.
De Vries, even on that last lap, the 9th lap of the race, still setting a fastest sector 3, which includes roller coasters. So he's in that rhythm, doesn't want to back it down, hitting those marks. As they would say, as Clint McMahon would say, he's being inch perfect. And that is Weida, who's running in 2nd. He's off what looks like they're at left hook, turn 4.
That was a turn 1 again.
Yeah, my mistake. That is 1, and he's on the outside of the track. That is the slippery side. Looks a lot like the 38 that John Dahl did. This time, though, Weida a little more violently going around once he got into that grass. Not getting high side at least. But that may be putting a bit of a damper on his podium run here.
And that diffuser still slapping the ground as it has come dislodged from the front, and I'm guessing that it was an earlier off-course excursion like the one we just saw that probably made that happen.
It's very possible, yeah.
Yeah, so Weida was some 43 seconds behind De Vries on the last lap, and now it's going to be even more than that. Eric McRee running in 3rd in the orange number 46 will be able to make up some ground here.
I wonder if Weida was actually just getting comfortable. He had just come through start-finish, turned to 2:26.6, just about matching his quickest lap of the race, and then maybe just got a little bit too anxious with his braking point, a lot like Jean Dahl did going down into 1. There's a shot of McRee, who's also still trying to get comfortable out there. Still, though, his fastest lap's only a 31.6. But we'll see if how much room and how much ground he can gain on Weida after that spin in 1.
There's Jack Walbrand, the veteran campaigner in the 67 car, as McRee working his way forward to put him a lap down. Eric McRee running in the 3rd spot. As we mentioned, 2 drivers eligible for the Super Sweep, which is winning the U.S. Majors Tour Conference, winning the Hoosier Super Tour, and winning the Runoffs. Both James Weida, our pole sitter, and Calvin Stewart have that option, but they would have to win this race, and at the moment it doesn't look like that's going to happen. They would have to win this race, and this man, Eric McRee, would have to finish 8th or lower. So neither of those things are coming true at the moment for the 2 drivers who are still in the running for the Super Sweep.
That is a tough feat to achieve for sure, because you have to be consistent. You've got to get to the events. Oh yeah, you have to win the runoffs.
Yeah, that's a minor thing.
Yeah, so we got a shot there of Russ Straight, currently running in 7th in his Red Devil Suzuki.
Russ out of Alden, New York, in the Western New York region. That's Jack Walbrand just behind him. Walbrand, on that last lap, was a couple seconds a lap quicker than Russ Straight. So Jack Walbrand up looking to take over that 7th spot. So this is a nice battle brewing here as we're just past the midway point. 14 minutes remain, and we are working race lap 11. So this a battle for position between Russ Straight and Jack Walbrand.
Jack's car probably a little bit more slippery in a straight line should he choose to use it. His trap speed's about 116. Russ Straight's about that on the most recent lap, but I think Walbrand's got the, you can see the larger body work there, maybe helping a little bit in some of these conditions. But we'll see where he can choose to get on by, and if that happens before McRee, who's just behind them, catches up and virtually flashing lights to get on by. We'll see. See if he can pull the flashlights out and blink it out or something.
Wave hands or something. But obviously the quarter marshals will be giving the blue flag with the yellow stripe to indicate that a faster car is overtaking. But at the moment, it is the 9 of Russell Straight holding on to 7th position.
And I suspect Walbrand's probably going to just lift and let Eric go on by as soon as they come out of the snake here. And go past our home for the TV broadcast. Just off to the side there, but there goes McRee. Now he can set his sights on trying to catch Russ Straight up there in front of him. As de Vries, the leader, just set another fastest lap of the race here on the 11th. He's just continuing to just hit his marks one after another after another. And I mentioned Clint McMahon, multiple-time champ in this class, not here this week, was texting me a few days ago, and even on Tuesday he said, look, if it's raining, look out for Sven. He's going to be quick. And Clint knows this class as good as anybody, and sure is not wrong.
Exactly right. As they're coming out of Oak Tree, and once again, Russ Straight allowing our third place car to make his way past, and has done so.
Giving the on-point point by.
So Jack Walbrand, after closing to within just a few car lengths, that bit of gentlemanly offering of a lapped car to come by has cost him some intervals, so he'll have to get back on it and see if he can find his way up into 7th spot, because he appeared to be quicker than Russ Straight, but to be determined as Eric McRee continues in 3rd position. The top 2 have already crossed the line. Almost a minute, over a minute now for Sven de Vries in front of James Weida, and that is absolutely domination here.
McRee out there is very consistent. He's essentially been turning 231s all day long so far out of the first 10 laps. Doesn't appear to really be looking for a new line. Maybe just he's found a line he's just comfortable with and just wants to get through the race, which isn't bad. But you can see here as he breaks down into one, still using the traditional dry line on the outside where we had seen de Vries and a few others. There's Cal Stewart now. He's going to take more of a middle of the track line there, trying to look for some grip. So Cal was quicker earlier. We know that he had some sort of an off or an issue, whatever that had let McRee go by. Cal may be charging to try and reel him back in.
And it looks doable on the lap. Now, McRee was picking his way through traffic. His last lap was a 2:34. Cal's last lap was his personal best, and that was a 2:30. So he's 4 seconds a lap quicker, and he's negotiating the same traffic.
But you watch Cal right there through NASCAR. He's got to be about 3 car widths off the apex, looking for some grip out there, doing the right things. That's the recipe for trying to catch up and make spots, as that number 9 of Russ Straight gives him the point by.
Yeah, actually just approaching left hook, it looks like Russ was pointing him by on the outside, which is one of the reasons Cal went that way. Might have had a little better luck to the inside, but nonetheless, he's made that happen. And there you can see, there's the battle for 3rd spot. Eric McRee in the orange number 46, and here's the white 07 of Calvin Stewart.
Not as twitchy looking. I think he's gotten comfortable, because I don't think the car would have changed very much in these kind of conditions. But you remember the first couple laps, how twitchy he looked? I think he's finally found a rhythm. He knows now that bit of a turn-in feel, how to be a little softer on the brake pedal specifically. I think he may be finding his groove around here now. A little bit of curve there coming into Oak Tree. Not sure that that's the advisable line, and trying to get the power now coming out. But he's just trying to get into that rhythm now as we're past the halfway point. Just about we're now down to, looks like, a shortened race.
Yeah, about 10 minutes remaining, and we're working, the leader's working race lap 13. So we might get all the laps in. There's only 2 laps to go here, as Eric McRee in the 46 heads down the roller coaster. All it takes is one little miscue, and that chance for a podium can evaporate, as Cal Stewart is coming strong. But now that they've both had pretty much clear laps, let's see what the lap time is As they come through Hogpen and across the line, we'll update our timing and scoring and see just what the pace difference is. As the 22 off track.
That's Weida.
That's our Weida, our pole sitter, second place. And he has...
Still dragging that rear diffuser around, so it hasn't completely come off. But going off there at NASCAR coming into left hook 4, definitely going to hurt a little bit of that time gap, as McRee now at least is on the same sector on the track with about 2 laps to go. I guess for them probably about 3 laps to go, but there's McRee now just coming off of turn 1. So
Yeah.
one more slip up from Weida, and it could be position costing.
Cal Stewart was able to close that gap a little bit more. It's down to 7 seconds. But with only a handful of laps remaining, it's going to be a tough call. Oh, there's John Dahl off once again.
He's still moving at least. He's not fully high-centered in that low-slung car. He's doing everything he can. Remember, he doesn't have the gearbox. It's the clutches, so right now his tire's acting like yet another clutch. He's still moving.
I think he might be able to get it back on track. As there's the battle for third, as both those cars in the camera shot now.
Just trying to figure out where John Dahl was. Perhaps back there at NASCAR.
Oh,
Cal
and Calvin's
Stewart.
his spun.
Oh,
coming
big 360.
Yeah, coming through the snake.
Yeah, kind of middle of the straightaway there. I wonder if there's a bit of a stream forming across the track, or maybe those tires are finally starting to wear down a bit, because he definitely left early. And there's the leader, I think, De Vries, coming up behind him now. Yeah.
Yeah, just out of left hook. Or into the snake, should we say.
That or,
Spun it.
yeah, or a very harsh upshift perhaps coming out of there, but something definitely sent that car into a bit of a slide, as I do believe that maybe De Vries behind him.
So that would put only 3 cars remaining on the lead lap. Yep, Cal Stewart not used to seeing the leader lap him. As you can see John Dahl off to the right there at the exit of Oak Tree.
Yeah, because he and Cal had a really great battle in the opening laps at Indy last year, and I'm sure Cal had visions of this you see right now. Unfortunately for Cal, the previous 14 laps have not been friendly to him, but you know, he'll be back, he'll be happy, he'll be smiling and telling everybody that, you know, positive things are good, and he's out there having a good day. And right now, Sven being very conservative behind Cal. Cal giving a little bit of an arm wave, pointing him on by as they head on the roller coaster.
I think Cal finally saw the passing flag and elected. I think he was trying maybe a little too hard to stay on the lead lap, you know, just in case a late safety car could have packed the field back up. But Sven de Vries continues his domination of this one as he comes to the line to complete race lap number 14. And that should indicate the white flag will be in the starter's hand as we are getting ready to start the final lap of this race. Under the stripe he comes. Sven de Vries, what can you say? I mean, I've seen some dominating runs. I've been fortunate enough to be announcing at the Runoffs for a number of years, and I've seen some dominant runs, and mostly in the wet. And Sven de Vries gets the title of Rainmeister in the early going.
He looked pretty happy this morning when I saw him, and his rain was just at that point just starting to come down. They moved the car to the wet setup. He looked like he was licking his chops at the opportunity. Definitely shown right now that he's just about a lap and a half away from making that run for the glory, as they say.
Exactly right. As he is working race lap number 15. Coming through the snake, and we're going to get all the laps in here. We've got 5.5 minutes remaining. As Sven de Vries hits the climbing S's. Him come by our commentary position there at full chat. As he works his way up toward the South Bend, turn number 10. Tricky in the dry and very tricky in the wet. And then the little short shoot into the double apex right-hander that is Oak Tree Bend. Sven de Vries out in front by 1 minute and 25 seconds over James Weida.
This has just been quite a stamp on this race so far, that he just looks way more comfortable out there than anyone else. He's looking for the drier spots. He's looking for that so-called wet line, finding the grip, and he's not backing off his pace, still hitting his marks. as if he's the only car out there. And right now, looking around him, it does kind of look like he
Pretty
may
much
be the
the
only
case.
car out there. He's just in a league of his own today.
Down the hill he comes into Hog Pen for the final time. Sven de Vries going to take the first of 26 national championships to be crowned here at the 2022 National Championship Runoffs. And he has done so in grand fashion. After starting inside of row number 2, he is coming to the checkered flag for the win and already saluting the crowd with his fist in the air. Sven de Vries takes the win in race number 1. Congratulations to Sven. James Weida has had an eventful race. He is the second place runner in the number 22 cars. Had an eventful race, several off-course excursions, and that diffuser rattling around underneath the car. But hopefully he'll be able to get it to the finish.
Yeah, the interviews are going to be interesting.
Yeah.
With Hayward down there, we're going to be seeing probably a lot of joy and jubilation, and the others maybe a little bit of just relief to get through that race. But hey, anytime you finish the podium at the runoffs, it's a huge accomplishment, and for both Weida and McRee, that maybe wasn't what they came here for, but walking away, looking back, it's a great result.
Looks like Russell Strait and Jack Walbrand still nose to tail at the line. But Russell Strait hanging on for that 6th place finish in the number 9 car, Jack Walbrand, the veteran campaigner. Here comes our 2nd place runner, James Weida, as he is just now coming down the roller coaster on his way toward the front straightaway. The diffuser on that car continuing to slap the ground. But James Weida started on the pole, taking his 2nd pole of his runoffs career. But he'll have to settle for 2nd spot. And in this race of survival here in these wet conditions, James Weida coming home on the podium in 2nd spot. Racer out of West Lafayette, Indiana, in the Indianapolis region.
In the upper Midwest, very strong in F5 these days, with a couple of Michiganders there, and then the Purdue, West Lafayette, James Weida, very strong in that area.
Here comes our 3rd place runner, and that is Eric McRee out of Lapeer, Michigan. Picked by Sports Car to finish on the podium. Sports Car got 2 of the, in fact, got all 3 right. In fact, the top 3, just the order is a little different than they had picked it. But the top 3 across the line, just as suggested as Sven de Vries coming through Hog Pen.
I think they had Cal Stewart thrown in their picks in sports car.
They did.
But
You're
hey,
right.
you know what? They grabbed. You can only pick 3 out of this 4, and it's a tight and tough group to pick from. These are all fantastic drivers with great cars, and I guess you can only pick 3.
Eric McRee taking the final step on the podium. And speaking of podiums, the top 3 drivers will be making their way on the cool down lap and into the pit lane. And standing by down there will be Hayward Wagner, and he'll have a chance to chat with the top 3 finishers. He'll take the winner first and then send him off on his victory lap. As first car working his way down the pit lane. Fist in the air.
Well, us folks in Saginaw Valley region are, I don't want to say I'm rooting for any drivers, but you know, when your home region wins one, we don't win one. He may be the only one that's ever won a runoffs championship, and now with a 2-time winner, yeah, we're pretty proud.
I was going to say, yeah. And like I say, you had a pretty good weekend at the Solo Nationals too.
It went all right.
Yeah, the Saginaw Valley doing a great job. As our 3rd place runner, Eric McRee, just now working his way through his cool down lap, just to give you some indication of just how dominant Sven de Vries was. As I said, the official margin of victory, 1 minute 25.832 seconds. And then Eric McRee, the 3rd place runner, another minute behind, 56.601. Calvin Stewart did not finish on the lead lap. So we've got 3 drivers finishing on the lead lap in our first race of the weekend. Cal Stewart finishing in the 4th spot in the 07 car. Keith Jocelyn had an eventful day in the 55, but he was able to work his way up into 5th position. Russell Strait chased him to the line. Then Jack Walbrand was the closest margin of victory over behind Russell Strait. Only a minute and 3/10 separated those two, as the veteran campaigner Walbrand coming home in 7th. And let's head down to our first winner of the weekend with Hayward Wagner.
Sven, you are one of the most relaxed national champions I've seen here on pit lane. How was that race for you?
It was very tough. I mean, it was very different in the rain. I haven't raced in the rain for about 7 years, and we've never raced this car in the rain. But Randy did an amazing job setting his car up in the dry last year and did it again in the rain. And I wouldn't say it was easy, but the car was very stable, very good to drive and handle. So it was absolutely a blast.
On grid, when we looked at the car, it looked to us like the front tires are mounted backwards. Was that an intentional strategy?
No, we've never ran the car in the rain, so maybe it was an accident. I'm not sure. It seemed to work out decently, though.
Well, congratulations on the national championship. You going to take the victory lap, or are you going to go inside and get warm?
No. I'm going to take the victory lap. Enjoy this moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's your winner, Sven de Vries with Hayward Wagner. He'll have a chance to chat with James Weida and Eric McRee as well. But Sven, a very happy winner. Interesting story about the rain tires.
We all thought it was strategic, and then Hoosier even said, yeah, they'll work just fine that way, and just to find out, like, whoops, I guess we just put them on the wrong sides of the car. Seemed to be okay, but you can see right there, Weida doing the same thing. His right front mounted the same way, so it's basically just mounted them all like that. Apparently it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Weida climbing out of the car. Again, started this race on the pole and in the dry. Might have been a little bit closer to Sven de Vries, but the car didn't work quite as well in the wet. He's the 2013 champion of the class. As James Weida. And once he gets the helmet off, we'll hear once again from Hayward Wagner down on the pit lane. As Sven de Vries will be making his way around the track with the checkered flag in hand for the celebratory victory lap, as Hayward has our second place finisher, James Weida.
James, you had an excellent week of qualifying, came up a little bit short in the race. Is this satisfaction or frustration?
Anytime you're on the podium at the runoffs, it's satisfaction. So Sven's a hell of a driver. I tried to stay with them, spun a few times, then I knew my limits, so I'm happy to be on the podium.
The car had some loose body work throughout the race. Was that a frustration? Was that something that was bothering your concentration, or did you notice it at all?
I did notice it, and once I figured out what it was, I was just like, I can't do anything about it, so I just got to stay out there and drive.
Well, congratulations on the podium.
Thank you.
We're going to grab our third place finisher real quick. Hey, guys.
Eric McRee just getting his helmet off there in the background, so Hayward will get a chance to chat with their final podium finisher in the 46 car. As Eric McRee having an eventful run as well, but staying out in front of Cal Stewart. Just to look like Cal might have something for him in the late stages, but as Hayward does have our third place finisher, Eric McRee.
Eric, a podium here at the runoffs. We were looking at the car on grid. It looked like you went with a different tire choice than everybody else. How did that work for you?
It worked okay. These are intermediate tires. They're actually a couple years old, so I was thinking that if it did dry out a little bit, the compound would be a little harder and we'd be able to, capitalize on that. But I think it was the right choice.
Well, congratulations on a podium here at the runoffs.
Thank you.
So there's your top three as they will make their way over to the victory podium and be awarded the gold, silver, and bronze medals. As we're watching our winner make his way around with the checkered flag in hand. So here are some of the race highlights from the jump, and Sven de Vries taking the lead as the green flag flew. James Weida there in second spot. Vries beginning to stretch the advantage. Then the battle for third between McRee and Calvin Stewart raged in the early stages. Cal never really looked comfortable. That car was twitchy all race long. There was a period there near the end where he looked good, but our first spin of the day from Timothy Freist in the 86 car coming down the hill.
A couple of those today. There's a shot there of a pass, unfortunately with the waving yellow in the background.
Exactly. And Stephen Jondahl taking over that position.
You can see the loose body work in the back of Weida, not one of his finer moments, but as he said, being on the runoffs podium is always an achievement.
There's the winner coming across the line, fist in the air. As our first winner of the year goes to Sven de Vries. So with that, we will say our goodbyes. Thanks so much for being with us for this first of 26 races for the 2022 National Championship Runoffs. We'll be back with you for the rest of the races in the course of the weekend. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you down the road.